the cloud.
Welcome to episode number 284 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you advertising, marketing, public relations, and communications professionals. You can find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on October 10, 2019. A bunch of things to talk about this week, including trouble on Sesame Street, targeting sonic branding, Siri, Spotify me, MSNBC mom, augmented opera, whiskey pods, harmonizing digital voices, crowdsourced shopping ads, checking facts, Google misplay, a blizzard of backlash, and blocked mixed content, among all the other stuff. BL kicks it off with the best story of the week as usual. BL, what do you got?
Well, this is a sad story, actually, but a good one. And, it's a sign of the times. Sesame Street has a new character, and she is named Carly, and she's 6.5 years old. She's a little green Muppet with blonde hair, and she has been placed in foster care because of her mother's addiction. And Sesame Workshop said that its effort is to support children and families affected by addiction. And, the sad thing is that there are 8.7 million children, 17 or younger, who live in households with at least one parent with a substance abuse disorder. That's according to a 2017 report from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And a lot of these kids end up in foster care. So Carly tells Elmo and other friends that her mother has a problem and she's in recovery. And she was introduced earlier this summer as being in foster care, but it didn't say why. So now there's a series of videos. They're available in English and Spanish, and they provide tools and training for children and families through community partners like Head Start and Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation. But, this is a growing concern in the United States, sadly. And about 1 in 3 children who entered foster care in 2017 did that because of parental drug abuse. So this is something you wish you could shield children from. I went to get a flu shot today, and I saw my doctor about this, and he said, the 5-year-olds need to know this. And I said, sadly, and they do, and he said, well, but, younger children watch Sesame Street, and some of them have been in foster care because of their parents. And he said, this is so sad. And I said, yeah, it is, but maybe it will help these kids.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it will, and if it's Sesame Street that's doing the talking, I suspect it will. They've always been on the forefront of addressing social issues. I mean, back in the day, they were like they had I remember they had an episode where they had a black character that was brought into the show to introduce people. To introduce people. At the forefront of introducing people of color into the mainstream media, right? Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me that they are doing this as well, and good on them for that.
But it's sad.
It is sad. So, yeah. This
is that a happier one?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's happier, but it's not depressing. So, this is a topic dear to my heart, as you will soon discover. This is from a Drum article by Katie Dayton, who writes about Rick Gomez, who is Target's chief marketing and digital officer. And the focus of the article is basically, it's a collection of quotes from him about Target's focus now on the re-emerging, quote unquote, marketing practice of audio branding. And so I was just going to read some quotes from Gomez about where Target's headed. With our brand, quote, with our brand, we have a really clear point of view on how it shows up visually. So when you see a piece of content, you go, that's Target. Part of that is casting and lighting and the craftsmanship, but sound is really important. And we believe sound is going to be increasingly important. When you walk into a store, what are the sounds that you're hearing? When you interact with a store team member, what are they saying? When you call the help desk, what's the music that you hear? We think that we have a real opportunity to start thinking about audio branding in a really holistic way, not just as a button on a commercial. That's the work we need to do. He says he anticipates that the role of voice is going to play an increasingly critical role in the development of retail marketing. It's interesting to me that this article sparked my interest because he's thinking about it in a very holistic way. When I usually talk about it, I talk about the trends that are going with voice activation becoming more ubiquitous. I talked about my Amazon Auto device. Now I can talk to my.
Is it working now?
It is. Let me tell you. So the mistake that I made is that I didn't open up the app, the Echo app, before I started driving. But once you open up the app, it works flawlessly now. I would have appreciated it if Amazon would have told me that.
Right, exactly.
And as far as the customer experience, it's not ideal because it takes a while for the app to load. It should just be automatic, but nevertheless, it worked wonderfully. But the whole audio branding experience comes to the fore with voice activation being everywhere, but Target is really thinking at a higher level too. Like every experience that you have with Target, what's the audio experience that accompanies that? So I found that interesting. I think that's something that more companies are going to be thinking about too.
Oh, they absolutely will. But, this is like from the beginning of my career. I've been telling clients like public relations is everything from how you answer the phone to, how fast you respond to a complaint to, how the office looks. I mean, it's everything you do. So it is holistic, and it's great that this is the emphasis that they have. And speaking of that, Siri has come to Spotify with the latest iOS 13 update, which is called Catalina. You can now ask for your favorite music or podcast using Siri voice commands. You have to preference the command by saying, "Hey Siri, play whatever," followed by the audio you want, and you have to conclude with the command "on Spotify." So this is from a TechCrunch article by Sarah Perez, and so now it's also Siri's going to be able to be on Apple TV, and that means you can request your favorite music or podcast using Siri's voice commands as long as you preference it by "Hey Siri, play," and say "on Spotify." So according to Spotify, the support will also work on Apple AirPods, on CarPlay, and via AirPlay on the Apple HomePod. Spotify also announced support for the Google Nest Home Max, Sonos Move, Sonos One SL, Samsung Galaxy Fold, and pre-installation on Michael Kors Access, Diesel, and Emporio Armani smartwatches. So it's also going to include support for iPhone's new data saver mode, which aids bandwidth issues. And so Spotify is launching on Roku, Android TV, Samsung Tizon, and Amazon Fire TV. But the backstory here is that Spotify is in a lawsuit with Apple claiming that they monopolize the market. So who knows how this is going to affect that, but we'll see. But it's interesting, and it's all about voice, and it's all about it being everywhere, and all about you being able to use it.
Yeah. I have long been down on Siri because I think Siri has been crap compared to Google and Amazon voice activation technology. But I will likely get Amazon TV by the end of the year, I think, just to know what it's about and everything. And they do
Amazon TV or Apple TV?
I'm sorry, Apple TV. Yeah. Because they do appear to have some interesting programming, and I just want to compare.
It's only $5 a month, so it's worth taking a look.
Yep.
Yeah,
but it'll give me a test run on Siri. I'll report back to see whether I still think it's for crap. Maybe they've improved it, but I don't really use Siri that much.
I frankly find that she still sucks.
Okay, well there you go.
I changed her to a South African male voice because she was annoying me with her voice. But I do
I've got a Australian woman speaking on my Google Home.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I have a happy one. The Welsh.
Well, gee, you gonna let me do one, BL?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you
Just
had.
skip it over.
Sorry, I thought you did one.
No, this is a short one, so I'll just do it quickly and let you get take control of the show again.
It's a target.
Remember when 2 years ago we talked about the BBC dad? Do you remember that show?
Yes.
Yeah. So the guy was an expert on international relations. I can't even remember
The little
what they're
kid
talking
came
about.
in.
Yeah. So he's doing an interview from his home office on some important international crisis that was happening that the BBC was interviewing him on, and his daughter comes marching into the room in her yellow suit. It was adorable, and it went viral. We have another likewise moment now. So there's an MSNBC or NBC correspondent, Courtney Cube, was on MSNBC this week talking about the Turkish airstrikes in Syria. So another important international issue. And while she's talking, you see her 4-year-old son popped in the frame and started grabbing at her and everything. And and she kind of hauled him back and excuse me, interrupted and then went on with her thing. But it appeared that she had brought her son to work. So it appeared that she was at the NBC offices while she was doing the interview, and her son was there at work. And whereas the BBC dad was being interviewed from his home office. This was not nearly as cute, but it was adorable nevertheless. But I suspect we will have many more of these types of moments because of the technology available to us, where subject matter experts are being interviewed in their home offices rather than having to come into a studio being interviewed. So we'll embed the video in the show notes so everybody can watch it.
It's very funny. Every once in a while, I've done an interview with somebody, and I see like a cat tail going through, and Lucy's come and jumped on my lap while I was talking to people. But I mean, we're all humans.
Yep.
So this is a really happy one. The Welsh National Opera collaborated with an immersive technology company called Arcade, and they produced this new AR experience, and their hope is to attract new fans and younger fans. So this is from an Inside AR story by Alice Bonasio. And so they released this augmented reality experience, and it's called The Vixen's Tale. And it's based on Leon Janáček's opera, The Cunning Little Vixen. And so it prompts people to learn more about the genre with all sorts of interactions and immersive illustrations and a soundscape. And it was also advertised in a campaign with AR posters that were placed around town, and they came to life when you looked at them through a Snapchat lens. Now, Snapchat's not as popular as it used to be, but maybe it is over there. But anyhow, it's just a lovely, wonderful story that they told, and I'm sure they did attract some younger people with it.
Interesting. So this also is interesting. This is from a Fortune article by Chris Morris. Glenlivet, the whiskey maker, has introduced a new way to drink whiskey. It's called the Glenlivet Capsule Collection. It is a 23 milliliter pod of whiskey. Like, remember the Tide Pods?
Mm-hmm.
It's like Tide Pod, except as instead of Tide inside, it has whiskey inside.
It's like coffee pods?
They're little like pods of whiskey.
But how do you drink them? Do you break them with your teeth?
You just pop them in your mouth. I guess you can. I don't know. I haven't tried them, but I suppose you can break them in your teeth, or you can let it disintegrate in your mouth, I guess. There are 3 different flavors: citrus, wood, and spice. Each is coated with seaweed extract, with a seaweed extract casing, and weighs in at about 3/4 of an ounce, which is about a half of a standard shot.
So the seaweed will dissolve.
Presumably, yeah. I haven't tried them. They're apparently a limited edition. So there's a tweet announcing these the capsule collection. No ice. Period. No stir. Period. No glass. Period. We're redefining how whiskey can be enjoyed. Period. Introducing the Glenlivet capsule collection. Hashtag no glass required. To which my tweep, Jeffek responded with a brilliant gif of Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park with a quote, "Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they never stopped to think if they should." which is brilliant giffery, and quite on point, because there's a big backlash against it. People, are just, nope, not going to do it. Plenty of Twitter activity suggesting that it's not a good product, but a brilliant PR stunt, if nothing else, because
absolutely
very, very, very unanticipated. Who would think of drinking whiskey in a pod? And everybody.
Well, it begs the question, though, whether there's going to be a machine like the Keurig for coffee with the coffee pods.
Well, there you go.
Be a machine, surely that's the next thing we'll hear about.
Rather than having the beer tap in the office, have a Keurig for whiskey pods.
Oh, this is such a gross idea. But the gross part is the seaweed. Seaweed's salty, so that's sort of gross. I mean, but anyway. So speaking about voice, which we've been talking about a lot tonight, just before, this kind of got under the radar, but just before the big hardware event last week with the 4,000 new things that Amazon announced, they had announced the voice Interoperability Initiative. And so they have a coalition of 30 well-known companies focused on improving how voice assistants work together. Imagine that. So this is from a story in Engadget from Shankar Iyer, and also Market Realist from Christine Fisher. And the goal is to make it so that you can access multiple voice services like Alexa, Cortana, even Salesforce's Einstein on a single device. Amazon says the companies are going to work with researchers and universities. They're going to keep making machine learning wake word technology better, and it's going to allow virtual assistants to communicate with each other. This is where it gets scary. So users can deploy different programs at the same time. So you could interact with your Amazon Echo and relay messages to Xbox One. Or you could be talking to the Amazon Echo to schedule tasks and calendar events on your Windows desktop. So the devices that support simultaneous wake words often have higher development costs and require more memory. So hardware providers like Intel and Qualcomm have joined the initiative, and they are pledging to make their technology available at lower cost to facilitate this. So the list of companies includes Amazon, Microsoft, BMW, Bose, Salesforce, Spotify, Qualcomm. However, you may notice Google, Apple, and Samsung have yet to sign on, and all three of them have their own voice assistants and dedicated devices, but it's only a matter of time until they'll have to join, in my opinion, and that's definitely an advance.
Well, I mean, the standards war is something that we've been living over and over again. Back in the day, it was the browser standards war, where some browsers were like, Microsoft was inventing new tags for HTML, and so it needs to be harmonized for them all to work together. But I don't know if that's as possible as it was back then, because as Apple shows, I mean, there's a lot of value in controlling the entire ecosphere of your product. So we'll see. Hopefully, interoperability becomes a reality in voice technology, because that is
a great idea, and it's a great goal.
Yeah, and it's the new frontier. It is the way that people will be interacting with their devices.
Nobody you can't forget like Betamax and VHS and how that war went on. And look, all of that is gone now. Who uses VHS anymore? So.
Yeah. So
what comes next? Maybe it's not any of that.
It's very likely too, right? This is an interesting little article from Search Engine Journal. Matt Southern reports that Google is introducing the user-generated images for product reviews in Google Shopping. So retailers can now include user-generated images in their product review feeds. So pictures taken by existing customers are, I mean, they obviously, they're user generated, they look more real, they are more real because they're user generated, therefore they lend more credibility to the product, more trust presumably. So that's something that retailers would want to take advantage of, and Google is incorporating it. So retailers can get started with this by utilizing an updated schema. We'll link to that in the show notes. And signing up for Google's product ratings program, which we'll also link to. It's currently only available on mobile in the US, but there are plans to expand this to other countries over time.
Well, that's an interesting one. That really is. I mean, because in the reviews on Amazon, so many of which are fake, there are videos that customers post and photos that customers post, and those definitely get your attention.
Absolutely.
So this, of course, is an ongoing issue, but Megan Ellis and Make Use Of had a post on the 8 best fact-checking sites, and she had Snopes and PolitiFact, but there were a couple that I didn't know, and they were rated by Media Bias Fact Check, MBFC News. And it's a bias. They also have a bias rating resource that lets you check the bias in your favorite news websites. So it's interesting because they have a daily source bias check, and factors include sourcing, biased wording, story choices, and political affiliations. So it analyzes bias, transparency of funding sources, press freedom in the country of origin, and the site's history of factual reporting. And it shows failed fact checks and instances of biased language in each site's summary. So there was some I didn't know. One was Truth or Fiction, one of the longest running fact-checking sites, and it was initially looking at internet hoaxes and rumors, but it extended its range. Now it has general fake news, and it includes political stories and viral content, and it gives various ratings to reflect the reliability, such as true, fiction, unknown, decontextualized, or variations like that. The analysis of rumor stories, look at the origin, whether there are elements of truth, and where the stories have gone wrong. Then there's Lead Story, which I did not know, and it's a lesser known site that helps users fact check information, and it debunks fake news across beats, including entertainment, tech, politics, and international news. The funky thing about it is that it partners with Facebook as a source of Facebook's effort to combat fake news, which they're not doing very well at lately. But it uses a Trendalizer search engine to monitor trending content, and it uses these results to identify trending fake news. So it's really like in the moment. And so it lists the bias, which is interesting. Fact checker by Washington Post, left center bias. Check your fact, right center bias. Factmyth.com, left center virus. Zebra fact check, right center bias. Exposingtruth.com, left center bias. And the granddaddy of all of these is the crap detection resources by Howard Rheingold that has 100 crap detection resources. It's an open Google Drive document, and I contribute to it from time to time, along with many other people. So I will put, once again, the link to that and to all of these things for you to check out on your own.
So what this cries out for is, as we said before in the previous story, is a standards body. We need a protocol for reporting these fact-checking sites. They need to report a protocol and a schema for machine learning and machine readability of the data that they're reporting, so that you don't have to go to check out whether it's factual or not, but have that as a feed fed into like a browser extension something. So whenever you across a site or content on that site, it reports that information to you, because otherwise, then I mean, it takes really
It's
dedicated
impossible,
people
Dave. I
that
mean,
care about the truth of the
the
story.
news cycle is
do
what,
it.
15 minutes long?
Right.
You know, who can do that in real time anymore? I mean, it's the responsibility, and we have said this over and over again, it's the responsibility of the people reading the news to check the facts.
Yeah, but no,
And
my point is
your
that
point
the
is
technology
correct.
exists, that we should be able to have it delivered to us. We need somebody to take you know, the bull by the horns and create the standards body and the schema so that we can enable it. But the technology is there; you can do it.
I think the ability to do that and the kind of cooperation required for making that happen is kind of a long way off. I agree with you that we need something like that, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon. And we have an election coming up with So I'm the President running, you know?
Yeah. So maybe not this election, but maybe that's too.
Maybe next time.
Hopefully, if there is a
There
next
is
time.
one, right?
Yep. So I'm out of good stories.
Me too. I got one that will curl your hair.
All right, we'll go have at it.
Well, this is about malicious sites in Google Play. This is from a Next Web story by someone by the name of Mix. And just last month, researchers found 172 infected apps on the Google Play Store. And the worst part is that these apps racked up 335 million installs by the time they were detected. So adware accounted for a staggering 300,600,000 installs, and other types of malware included subscription spam, hidden ads, and SMS premium subscription software. The data was compiled by this malware researcher named Lucas DeFenko, and he said most of them are not available on Google Play anymore. But considering this is hardly the first time this has happened on Google Play, and it's high time that their security team talk about the need for alternate solutions. That's what they need. But on the bright side, most of it's gone. And Google surprisingly did not comment for the article, but the bottom line again is be extra careful what kind of software you download. Make sure you check who developed it before you click install. It's a lot of work for us to do here.
I didn't realize that you didn't have to be a musician or a celebrity to go by one name. Like Elvis or Madonna, but Mix, apparently you can be a writer and go by, I'm going to go by Dave. That's it. I'm done.
Good luck with that. You'll be the only Dave.
Buyer beware.
My bad news.
Right,
yeah, buyer beware, reader beware. You know, I mean, it's just we got to beware all the time.
Yeah. So this is a huge story, and it's not just one company that's involved. It's a bunch of them. But let's start it off with Vox's Zach Beauchamp, who reports about Activision Blizzard, which is one of America's biggest video game companies, who just buckled to Chinese censorship. They suspended a professional player of Hearthstone, which is a digital card game they publish, over a statement that player made that was in solidarity with the pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. To get a sense of how big Activision Blizzard, if you don't know, it publishes World of Warcraft, which is a hugely popular game. Call of Duty, another hugely popular game of which I like a lot. Candy Crush, one of the most popular mobile games. So they're a massive video game publisher. The offending commentary was by the player's name is Chung Wang, who is a Hong Kong-based player who goes by the name of Blitz Chung. And it came across in an official interview after he won a match in the Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament, which is the highest level of competition. And he said, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time. which is a protest slogan among Hong Kong protesters, while he was wearing goggles and a face mask, which are items that are commonly used by the protesters to protect their identity. In the statement by Blizzard on their Hearthstone blog, they announced that it would be suspending him for a year, forcing him to forfeit the $1,000 in prize money that he won, and firing the commentators who conducted the interview.
Really?
Yeah. So Blizzard is the article's author said that Blizzard is not trying to operate within the confines of Chinese censorship, which a lot of American companies try to do. Google has had a long history of trying to operate within those confines, but instead that Blizzard was acting as an agent of the Chinese government in this action. Activision Blizzard's stock price has fallen, according to CBS News' Sarah Min, by nearly 4% this week because of the backlash, which prompted outrage and calls for boycotts among the gaming community. Blizzard employees staged a walkout, according to the Daily Beast's Blake Montgomery. There was a small group of Activision Blizzard employees who walked out of work to protest the company's actions. The employees from multiple departments gathered at an iconic statue of an orc warrior charging into battle that is at the center of the company's main campus. There were a handful, there's ranging from a dozen to 30 employees that were protesting, so not a large protest, but the protesters would have been visible to the executive offices, which overlooked the main plaza. Chinese giant Tencent notably owns 5% stake in Blizzard, and the gaming company earned 12% of its revenue from the Asian Pacific region last quarter, according to its earnings report. So a huge stake, this American company has a huge stake in its Chinese market, but they're risking a big backlash among American consumers who are now boycotting and protesting this action. But Blizzard was not the only company that was in the news for this type of an action. The NBA, National Basketball Association, recently distanced itself from Daryl Morey, who is the general manager of the Houston Rockets, after he tweeted support of Hong Kong protesters. And the team is reportedly considering firing him in order to placate Chinese authorities because the NBA has investments there. And then, according to Gizmodo's Jennings Brown, Tim Cook was of Apple, was in the news as well, regarding protesters who had been using the hkmap.live app to monitor police movements during the protests based on crowdsourced inputs. Apple had removed the app a few days ago, then reinstated it, and then pulled it again after the People's Daily newspaper published a piece that proposed that Apple was complicit in, quote, illegal acts by helping protesters engage, quote, in more violence. So a lot of American companies bowing to the whims of the communist Chinese government, who has got a long history of censorship. The question is, American companies more, do they have allegiance to their bottom line or to values?
They have allegiance to the bottom line, and that's
happening more.
Yeah, it is. And, Apple has a huge stake in China because of the factories they have there, and the production of their products that they have there. But a lot of companies are in that position, and to not take a stand these days is unacceptable, but this stand is not acceptable to anybody who cares about democracy.
But it's completely short-sighted to their bottom line, because the value of freedom of expression is what gives their companies value. It is what brings in the revenue to those companies.
Absolutely.
The overarching value of freedom of expression is what makes them valuable. They're exporting culture. They're exporting American culture. They're providing platforms within which, presumably, free speech.
Yes, but that's free speech is under threat.
Right, but by not upholding those values, they're not contributing. They're inhibiting their bottom line.
Absolutely. Well, ultimately they will be, or we can only hope they will be. You know,
Yeah.
this complicit attitude is pretty widespread, sadly. So you have another one. Speaking of big companies, I think that Dave may be a little frozen right now. So when Dave comes back, he'll tell you about that one. And I will, in the meantime, go on to shiny objects. Wired has, this is not new, and it's not really a shiny object, but it will help you understand artificial intelligence. And Wired has a guide to, a hype-free guide to the history, the potential, and the jargon of AI. So I will put a link to that in the show notes. And Dave is back. Tell us about Google.
Yeah, so this is search engine journal Roger Monti, and this is something who controls a website be aware of. Google has announced the Chrome browser will begin blocking web pages with mixed content beginning this December. This content is when you have a secure page that's encrypted through HTTPS, the secure connection, that also links to content that is an HTTP protocol. So typically how that happens is in the header of your web page, you're linking to a cascading style sheet or a JavaScript file that is HTTP while your entire site is encrypted by HTTPS. And so it is a mix of unencrypted and encrypted content. So beginning in December, with the introduction of Chrome 79, Google will, and they will also introduce a toggle for Chrome users. They can use that to unblock the insecure resources, but of course, nobody is going to do that because it's insecure, according to Google Chrome. So publishers will need to ensure that their sites have no mixed content. Beginning in January of next year, Google will remove the unblocking option so that you'll just receive an error, or visitors will just receive an error messages if there's any mixed content. So webmasters are going to have to comb through their sites to make sure that is not the case, and you don't have a lot of time to do it.
How many sites is that going to affect?
Oh my God, affect a lot, I imagine.
That's what I was thinking.
Because there's tons of blogs out there that people don't have the technical expertise and don't think about whether they're linking to secure or insecure content, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, Google may have to postpone that a little bit.
Yeah, probably not. It's a Google world and we're just living in it.
This is true. All right, well, I gave my Wired guide to AI, so you give us a shiny object.
All right, so this is a quick one. This is just a reference to a great resource. This is an article by Jenny Marvin at Martech Today about how you can get lead scoring data. So people who use their web presence to drive to generate leads can get your lead scoring data into Google Analytics using Google Tag Manager. It's technical. If you're not using Google Tag Manager, then you probably don't want to do this. We'll put a link to it. It's basically a how-to article about how to do it. So we'll put a link to it in the show notes, and you can check
That sounds like a very geeky resource.
it out if that is of interest to you.
So tell us about Moz.
It is.
I'm actually going to interview the president of Moz in a couple of weeks. Talk about why the C-suite doesn't care about SEO and why they should. Dave's having some sound problems this evening. All right. Well.
I can't wait for the interview though. So Moz is on is introducing a new free tool that everybody should be aware of on domain analytics. So this tool provides data on domain names. So you can plug in any domain name. It will give you 2 Moz-generated metrics that they compile for domain authority. So the authority of the given domain that you've pointed in, which it means basically the domain authority gives you an indication of how well that domain is going to be appearing in search results. And then page authority, so individual pages on that site, what authority they have, ranking within Moz's metrics, determining how well that page, that individual page, will show up in search results. It also gives you a ton of other data, including top linking domains, domains that link to that website, keywords estimated by clicks. This is Moz's own calculation of how many clicks a site is going to get based on keywords, top keywords that are used on the site, top featured snippets that occur on the site. It's all free. It's part of it's a marketing tool for Moz, but it's great data. And I use Moz, the paid version for research, and it's a great tool as well. So this is something people should check out.
It is a great tool. So I don't have any other shiny objects, but I do have some political news.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay. Well, you know, right now, grassroots coverage of the electoral issues and policy issues in all levels of government are suffering by the loss of local journalism. So a site called DemCast USA has stepped in to help us with that. This is from a Casey Newton story. And it's what they're hoping to do is to amplify the impact of grassroots digital media by bolstering democratic electoral and policy victories at all levels of government across America. It's activist driven, it's not for profit, it's dedicated to democracy, it's media by the people, it's for the people. But what's notable to me about it is that it includes a meet the candidates section, it has blog posts, it has videos, it has graphics that you can download and use, and they have a podcast. So it's DemCast USA, the DemCast Podcast Network, and that is something that's really worth taking a look at.
Sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is not so cool. This is from Scott Lucas at BuzzFeed, who reports on Facebook has a get out the vote function that they've used across elections. The I voted button that they use. It's the article argues that the I voted button seems not neutral, but in that it's turning out a cross-section of Americans, but what it's really doing is turning out a cross-section of people who are using Facebook. And the issue is that Facebook's user base is changing, that the user base is getting older, they're more likely to be boomers, and less likely to be millennials and younger people. And so because of that changing demographic, that demographic favors more Donald Trump than it does a Democrat, because millennials are more likely, younger people are more likely to vote for Democrats, and boomers are more likely to vote for Trump and support Trump. And
Wait.
Well,
Boomers are more likely to support Trump?
Oh, hell yes.
Oh, come on.
Oh, hell's yes. That's documented in many, many different ways. Look at his rallies. They're all boomers. So anyway.
I'm rolling my eyes. Yeah, go ahead.
The American base of Facebook users are more likely to be boomers because millennials and younger people are abandoning Facebook. So therefore, if they're turning out more people using the I voted button to get out to the polls, they're more likely to be turning out Trump voters than they are a Democrat. And the boomers are more likely to share stuff on Facebook than other demographics. So they're more likely to spread that effect across the network. So therefore, take a look at the article. You can roll your eyes, but
I'm rolling my eyes, Dave.
completely buy it.
But tonight, I read that Zuckerberg has now stated that they're really not going to be as stringent with their fact-checking in political candidates because they're known to lie. So as far as I'm concerned, Facebook is done. I don't spend any time there. I just go there to see whose birthday it is. Everyone, all the other boomers I know feel the same. I think when you talk about, this demographic, you have to talk about where we live. And I think if you look at either coast, you'll find the boomers on either coast are certainly not voting for Trump. So I don't know where that comes from, but boy, that's making my skin boil.
Well, that is a East Coast centric point of view if I've heard one.
It's where I live, Dave. So here's another one. Do you have another one? Okay.
God.
Do you have another one?
Not.
Okay, so this is really kind of a scary one. This is about Real Clear Politics, which has carefully cultivated its nonpartisan image. However, its parent company publishes images of killer Clintons and freedom-loving Kremlin, and this was outed by the Daily Beast by Kevin Poulsen and Maxwell Tanney, and this is really horrifying. They have the nonpartisan news site Real Clear Politics also has been secretly running a Facebook page called Conservative Country, and it has all these far-right memes and Islamophobic smears. And the page was founded in 2014. It has 800,000 followers, and it's a mix of Donald Trump adulation and ultra-conservative memes. And one recent post, and I will not post any of these, showed a man who had 2 assault rifles aimed at a closed door, and the caption was, "Just sitting here waiting on Beto." And others wink at right-wing conspiracies about Barack Obama's ties to Islam and the Clintons killing their enemies, and it's effusive praise of Vladimir Putin. One post shows Russia as the last bastion of freedom in Europe. Real Clear Politics was founded in 2000, and it was an online aggregator for political news, curating links to widely read political stories and opinion articles in major outlets. So it became synonymous with its polling aggregator, and news organizations on both sides of the aisle use it as an objective metric of major political races. But now it covers, besides politics, healthcare, finance, foreign policy. But back in 2017, Conservative Country, which is the name of the Facebook page, was linked as the official Facebook page of a now defunct news site with the same name, except it was conservativecountry.net. They've taken that over, and they're secretly going through it. And so the Daily Beast, and this is really great journalism on their part, the Daily Beast connected conservativecountry.net to Real Clear Politics through archives in the Wayback Machine that show the website had Real Clear Google Analytics, had a tracker code, and that some of the site's images were served from WordPress of their chief technology officer. So, interviews with a former editorial staff at conservativecountry.net confirmed that it was a stealth Real Clear property. Kelly McBride, a senior vice president at Poynter Institute, said that transparency is a crucial element for readers seeking to understand whether they can trust a news outlet. And he said legitimate and respectable news organizations are transparent about their ownership. It should be clear that when you go to, and this is what we were talking about earlier, when you go to a site, it should be clear who owns it. You should be able to tell what other outlets they own. So the purpose of Conservative Country is driving, this is the weirdest part of all, is driving links back to Real Clear's own other properties. And 240 of the 1,000 external links posted on the page since January 2017 are to Real Clear Media's flagship title, Real Clear Politics. Fox News comes in a distant second, and then there are sites to the American Thinker, which is a conservative commentary site. So that's really mucked up there, and obviously we can't trust them anymore. One down.
Yeah, well, that's two things. That's a link. That's a SEO black hat tactic that they're using. I mean, that's an SEO tactic right there. But yeah, I had used a Real Clear Politics back in 2000 when they first started, and I've known it as a conservative site all along. I mean, it was clear
But they
to me.
don't present themselves that way.
Well, of course not. But they do. I mean, their average of polls is widely cited, as you said. But
by both parties on both sides of the aisle.
But because I mean, they're not fudging the data on the average of polls. You can do the math and find out whether they're lying about the average of polls. It is useful information, regardless of I mean, you've laid out their conservative affiliations that they're hiding. Nevertheless, the average of polls is useful, so I'll give them that. That's all I'll give them.
Well, the president said today that whoever does the polls for Fox News sucks, in such presidential language.
Yeah. Well, he's in my state today, so I feel.
What a mess that is!
I feel a lot filthier as a result. So.
Good for your mayor.
Yeah. Any other political stuff?
I'm done.
All right. So let's wrap this up. This is some daily numbers. And so I do a lot of local digital marketing stuff, usually with online review sites like Google My Business and Yelp and so forth. So I've compiled a bunch of statistics. These are from various sources, but the ones I'm citing now are going to be from Bright Local, which is a local marketing tool. And they do a local customer review survey. So I'm going to cite a handful of statistics, but then I've got a post as well that includes 12 local digital marketing statistics. And these are crucial. If you do any local business, it's important to be taking control of and optimizing your local business listings. So 70% of consumers that are asked to leave a review go on to write one. The importance of asking for reviews, right? 44% of women have never been asked to leave an online review for a business, compared to just 25% of men. Weird. 89% of consumers read business responses to reviews. So if you're not responding to your online reviews, that's a mistake. 45% of consumers say they're more likely to visit a business that responds to their negative reviews, which makes a lot of sense, especially, I always say, like, negative reviews are an opportunity to turn them into a positive review.
Absolutely.
Because being in public and responding to negative reviews in a way that demonstrates that you're willing to try and resolve whatever issue it is that the customer is having, demonstrates your commitment to practicing good business practices and resolving customer issues. So there you go.
I'm sending these statistics to a client immediately after the show. So that brings us to the end of episode 284 of the Beyond Social Media Show. To find us, all you have to do is search Beyond Social Media Show. Links to everything we're talking about tonight are at beyondsocialmediashow.com/284. And my charming co-host here is David Erickson. He's on Twitter as D. Erickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson. He's on YouTube as eStrategy. And he blogs at the really wonderful eStrategyblog.com. I'm BL Ochman. I'm on Twitter as What's Next. I blog at What's Next blog. I'm on YouTube as What's Next blog. And my puppy Lucy is on Instagram as Lucy the Rescue Puppy. And she's building up a little following. So Beyond Social Media Show, again, beyondsocialmediashow.com, and look for us on Twitter as BS Media Show. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching.